Yo, what up YouTube? My name is Frody, welcome back to the channel. According to dictionary.com, ignorance is defined as the state of being ignorant, lacking information, knowledge, education, and etc. And the more I think about this definition, what about any of this is blissful? Whoever came up with this idea that ignorance is bliss, I'm convinced was either high or crazy. Because I'm here to tell you, ignorance is many things, but blissful is not. In fact, I know firsthand, ignorance is costly as fuck. Today, I'm going to share a quick story about how my ignorance cost me nearly $50,000 in 4 years. Back in 2014, I finally secured my first full-time teaching job after subbing for 3 years at the New York City Department of Education. Excited I was. I saw the biggest number next to my name and I signed it immediately. Right after getting hired, I realized I was gonna need a car. So I got hired on a Monday morning. Monday evening, I was at the dealership.
I'm leaving here with something.
At the end of the night, I drove off in a 2011 Mazda 3. It was a pretty good deal. Looking back, that was one of the best deals I could have ever gotten. Hindsight is always 2020. The car was very reliable. It was about 2011 Mazda 3, 51,000 miles on it. It cost me $15,000. It was great on gas. It was very affordable. The entire total operating cost was $600 a month. That included the car note, gas, insurance, and toll. Fast forward to August 2015, exactly a year after I had bought that car, I traded it in a brand new 2015 Mazda 3. Why did I do that? You may ask. Well, why did I do that? Well, simple. After my first year, which was a resounding success, I got a 15% raise. And at that time, the way I thought was an extra 15%. A 50% raise meant that I had 15% more money to spend. And I did it. The idea of people spending more money after they get a raise is very common practice. In fact, this concept is called lifestyle creep, and it would actually explain why it has been reported that 60% of millennials making $100,000 plus are living paycheck to paycheck. It's a very seductive thing to fall victim to. And the way it is, generally speaking, after people get a raise, their spending habits generally increases as well, especially in non-essential items such as luxury goods, because typically speaking, the feeling is that, you know what, I deserve this because I work really hard, which is something I thought about when I went and got this new car. I felt like, well, I deserved it, and I went and got it. And I learned my lesson. So now that I had this new car, here's the breakdown. Previous car, the total operating cost on a monthly basis for the car was $600. Well, guess what? Now, the car note itself was now $725. That was before the toll. That was before gas. That was also before insurance, which I was not going to be paying the premium because it was a brand new car. Overall, I had increased my spending by
220%.
So I went from paying $600 a month for my first car to now paying $1,300 to $1,400 a month for the car. Why are you paying this much money for a Mazda 3? These are Audi, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, car prices. And then that's when I realized that I did not know this before, but when I traded in my first car and whatever I had left to pay on it was automatically added to the new balance of the new car. So now, although my new car was I bought it for about $27,000, I still had $12,000 left on the old car. So now I was paying essentially, I'm driving a Mazda 3. I'm driving a $26,000 car, but I'm essentially paying a $38,000 car note. Crazy. And this is when I realized, after a couple of weeks of driving around, feeling good about myself, about my new purchase, reality began to set in and buyer's remorse kicked in. But the problem with that is a car is not like a camera or a laptop, something that you easily return. I could not return it. So I realized, you know what? I was stuck. I found myself essentially in a very precarious financial predicament. For a brief moment, I began to feel sorry for myself. I began to tell myself to cope. I told myself that
the people at the dealership took advantage of me, they swindled me, they scammed me.
And although that was comforting, It felt good. It was comforting for a brief moment. I realized that, you know what, telling myself these lies wouldn't actually change the reality of the situation I found myself in. So I began to ask myself a very simple question. Well, what can I do about it? I began to do some research. I began to educate myself. The research I should have done before going to get the car, I was now doing. I realized that with a new car, with a new loan, I had the option of refinancing. And except to refinance a car, I would have had to improve my credit score. So I devised a plan to go improve my credit score. And I did. I began to learn about credit, the value of credit, how you build a credit, how you maintain a credit, the things that were required. And 5 to 6 months later, I had rescued my credit score from the ICU, improving it by 127 points. I felt really good about myself. I felt like, that was a major W. That was a major win. So excited I wanted to go. I called Chase, and I was excited to refinance the car. And they were like, you know what? We unfortunately are not going to be able to do that. I said, why not? Well, the young lady on the phone informed me that unfortunately, I had a negative equity. I'm like, negative what?
First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm going to take them as disrespect.
What does that even mean? Well, the problem was that I bought the car in 2015. It was now a year and a half later. Obviously, a year and a half later, I had just finished paying the old car. Now, I have a car that is nearly 2 years older, so there was a discrepancy between the value of the car and the cost of the balance of the loan. And it was a very dire situation because with each day that passed, the value of the car was going down, and there was no way I was ever going to be able to catch up with the payments to the value of the car. So right when I thought I had essentially figured something out, I was right back where I started. So now that I was back at square one, I began asking, the universe, thinking about asking for solution, requesting ideas. And something miraculous happened. I learned that, in life, in many cases, whatever you're seeking is also seeking you. Because one day I went and checked my mailbox, and there I saw a letter from a company from Colorado who specialized in special refinancing cases like mine. And I was like, man, there's no way. I reached out immediately, got on the phone. They told me what my options were. And they were like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. We could guarantee you a lower APR that is going to save you some money on the loan. And, 3 weeks later, I did the paperwork, did everything. I successfully refinanced the loan of my car. In the process, I slashed the APR from 14% down to 6.5%. And as a result, I ended up saving about $8,000 in interest. That was monumental. That was huge. And the reason is because now that, I didn't have to pay so much money in interest, the payments I was not going to be making was going to be paying down the actual balance of the car. And this was, at the top of 2017, early 2017. And I began to make headways, and because another thing that happened as a result of refinancing my loan, my monthly payment went from $725 to $430. So in the process, I saved nearly $300, and that was huge because now the extra $300 I was now paying down, the actual balance of the car. So fast forward to 2018, the final chapter. At that point, I felt as though I had learned all the different lessons, all the many lessons I was supposed to learn from this entire experience. And as the saying goes, when you know better, you got to do better. And I was ready to do that. I had planned to move closer to work. I've come to realize I had a commuting issue, not a car issue, because once I solved the commuting issue, I would have also by proxy solved my car issue. So I was planning to move closer to work. And as a result, I began to look to selling my car. And serendipitously, my mother was also looking to purchase a car. Look at that. I had a car to sell. She needed a car to purchase. Match made in heaven. July 2018, 1 month shy of the 4-year anniversary of this entire journey, I sold my car for $14,000 to my mother in mint condition. And 4 years and $45,000 later, that was one of the most expensive lessons I've ever learned. For context, my student loans after 5 years of undergrad is $45,000, which I still have. So I could have literally paid off my student loans with the money that I spent on them 4 cars, but I digress. I'm actually very grateful. I was not bitter. I was very grateful. Till this day, I'm super grateful for that experience because one, it exposed to me, it revealed to me the many areas in which I was ignorant. It also taught me the true cost of ignorance. It also forced me to learn many lessons that I was not taught. I did not learn in school. I had to go out and learn that for myself. And when I think about it, I was very grateful for the fact that it happened in my mid-20s. It didn't happen later. It could have happened later on. And I'm also grateful for the fact that this lesson only cost me $45,000. I mean, it was a car. It could have been worse. It could have been with a house. So in the end, I was very grateful. And also that experience became the catalyst for me to embark on this lifelong journey that I've been on. Ever since then, without that experience, I would have never went on to read the many books that I've read. I would have never gone on to make the life changes that I've made since then. I wouldn't have been able to become the person I am today to even be sharing this experience on YouTube with the rest of the world. So I'm super grateful. And one of the most important lessons I learned throughout this entire ordeal is that we were all born and we will all die ignorant for the simple fact that there isn't enough time to learn all there is to learn in a single lifetime. However, we have a choice in remaining unconsciously ignorant, where you don't know what you don't know and you don't even know that you don't know it, which that's what I was when I went into that dealership. I didn't even know what I didn't know. Therefore, I couldn't have even done any preparation or research. Or, we could spend the rest of our time, committing to learning, reading, educating ourselves to become consciously ignorant to the point where we are aware of what we know and what we don't know. And there's value in that, because when you are aware of what you don't know, that will lead you to seeking the information yourself, seeking others that may know it. And you will also know the right questions to ask because you know what you don't know. And there's value in that. And one of my favorite quotes from Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday says, "As the island of our knowledge grows, so do the shores of our ignorance." And that is so powerful, because that quote taught me that without knowledge, without the pursuit of knowledge, we're drowning in the sea of ignorance. And when we begin to pursue knowledge, wisdom, skills, education, right, the more we learn, the more we become aware of the extent of our ignorance. And the crazy thing about this experience is that I was only able to see how much my ignorance cost me because, monthly payments are tracked. Then I began to ask myself a series of questions of, well, where else was my ignorance costing me? How much has my ignorance cost me? What about the areas where there are no monthly payments, such as in relationships, at work, missed opportunities? Ultimately, this is something I learned. I used to always ask, why is it that none of my teachers taught me so? Why didn't any of my teachers teach me this or that or third? Then I realized when I became a teacher is that teachers, adults, people cannot teach what they themselves don't know. I would like to offer this proposition of, take some inventory in your life and ask yourself the same questions. How is my ignorance costing me in business, relationships, professionally, socially? Where is my ignorance costing me and how much it has cost me? So thank you for tuning in for another episode. Peace.